Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another very exciting episode here on the MIgardener channel. Really excited for this one. Won't be a super long one, so it'll be quick, but it's going to be loaded with information to help you all grow more food longer into the season. It's something that everyone always strives for is season extension. How can I grow sooner in the spring and later in the fall? Well, with this method, in certain climates, you can grow all season long. Now for us, not all season, but what we are going to do is give our plants a little extra protection during this kind of like late fall, early winter weather that plants can still grow if they're the right type of plants. And it'll also protect them so that even if they're not growing, they're not dying. So if the weather does come, above freezing and sun comes out and it warms things up, they'll start growing again. So it kind of just keeps them in limbo until growing conditions are optimal. So what we want to do is we want to go to the hardware store. I went to our local hardware store and picked up a 4 mil drop cloth. It's a very inexpensive way to get clear, basically almost like clear greenhouse covering. And greenhouse covering is generally about 6 mil, but we went with 4 mil because that's the most that they had. They had some other cheaper, super cheap 0.4 mil. They had a 1 mil, they had a 2 mil, but what you want is the 4 mil. And this ran us right around I think $9 or so. And so this greenhouse fabric was 9 feet by 12 feet. So then what we did was we went with another small strip. I was able to find a small strip of the 9 by 12 just rolled up. And I cut myself a few strips, and I actually was able to use an iron and heat seal a little additional ends on, because the 9 feet is going to be great for covering the, the arch of the low tunnel, but it's not going to be great for covering the length of the grow tunnel, because our beds are 10 feet long, and with only 2 feet extra on each side, it's not going to leave a whole lot more room, especially once you have a little bit of sagging. It's not going to leave a whole lot more room to kind of close the ends up, because you want to make sure that the ends are completely enclosed so that all that heat you generate is kept inside rather than going outside. What we're going to do is the same way we prepared the shade cloth with our PVC clamps. So we have our PVC clamps here, and if you want to see how we made the hoop house portion, you want to go check out the video on an inexpensive shade cloth hoop house. I'll post a link to that in the description box below. It's going to let you know how we made this hoop house here very inexpensively. And so this is the second component of that, which is going to help season extend through the spring and fall months. So let's get going. Alrighty, put on our clips. We'll start at one end and pull it tight as we go, because you don't want any sagging. Snow will naturally slough off of this. If you do have some snow and you keep it tight, it'll slough off the ends. If you leave a lot of room to sag, it's going to sag and it's going to pull it down. So you don't want to do that. And what we're also going to do is we're going to take a string. We're going to tie a string to this, and we're going to tie it down to a peg at a 45-degree angle to kind of keep this. It's almost kind of considered like a caterpillar tunnel, if you will, but it's going to keep this end brace from drooping inward. So there you go, we're all done, got it all finished, and it looks great. Really happy with how it turned out. So one thing that I did take, into consideration was budget. So I wanted to make this very budget friendly for everyone. I realized that everyone comes from different budgets, but I wanted something that most people could do. And the question that I'm going to get is, Luke, why didn't you just go out and buy greenhouse plastic? Well, the reason why is because with budget in mind, I went out and I looked at what a similar dimension sheet of greenhouse plastic would be that was 6 mil. This is 4 mil, so it would be a little bit better. But the difference of 2 mil, you'd be shocked. 6 mil in the same dimensions as what this is, which was 9 by 12, was $40. $40 compared to 9. Now I did have to buy a little bit extra to heat stitch it on, but you would have had to do that anyways with even the other stuff. So no telling what that would be. But the all-in cost for this right here was 12 bucks. So you really can't go wrong with $12, because even if you wanted to make 2 of the same dimension sheets and lay them on top of each other and then heat stitch those together, you'd have 2 layers of 4 mil making 8 mil for half the cost of 1 sheet of 6 mil from a greenhouse supplier. So something to take into consideration. If you have some laying around, or you have a friend that has some greenhouse plastic, go with that option, because the 6 mil will insulate better than the 4 mil. The thicker the plastic, the more insulative properties you're going to have. As is, this is going to insulate about 2.5 to 4 degrees on the high end. Wouldn't bet my life on 4 degrees. I'd wager between 2 and 3 degrees, somewhere in there is what it's going to be. So if it's 30 degrees outside, it's gonna be like 32 to 30 degrees inside. So just something to kind of consider. And obviously the more layers you add, so if you did layer up your plastic and made 2 layers of the 4 mil, that's going to insulate even more. Plus you're gonna have a little air gap in there. That'd be the ticket. If I had all the money in the world and I wanted to, protect these all season long, I just don't have the time and I don't want to fiddle with it. I just wanted to protect these plants. If I did have all the time and the money in the world, I'd do that twice, and then that'd give you about 5 to 6 degrees of protection. So something to consider. Also, the final thing is, Luke, how long is this going to last into the season? Well, it kind of just was answered with the how much protection this is going to provide. But for us here in Michigan, it's going to last us into mid to late December before the plants really slow down. With cold hardy plants like spinach, arugula, kale, carrots, beets, things like that, it's not going to necessarily die. They're just going to stop growing. And then when the weather returns above freezing, it's going to continue growing again, like I said earlier. So it varies based on location. I can't give you a specific answer, but for here, it'll definitely last into mid to late December, where it'll grow and we can continue harvesting it. Then we'll leave it on all winter long. And then what we'll do is in the spring, we'll be able to have a really early harvest, because the green's under here, and we're gonna plant some lettuce and radishes and things like that for super early spring harvests. Those are going to basically stay dormant and kind of in limbo until spring comes. And then this will warm up far faster than the rest of the garden, meaning we'll have an early harvest. So you do get extension in both spring and fall, which is great, because that means more food for you and your family. So I do hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. If you have any questions though, post them in the comments box below. I'd be happy to answer them. I do think it's something way more people need to try, because it's really not that expensive. Really, really not that expensive for the return you're going to see if you use it properly. So as always, I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. And this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. And we'll catch y'all later. See ya. Bye.